Ricky Thompson, Baylor Radio Sideline Analyst, former Baylor and Washington NFL wide receiver on 365 Sports. Ricky, thank you for your time. Well, things have changed since the last time we've had you on. It looks like this team has more than just a pulse.
Yeah, I'm not sure any of us would guess this right now if we were talking 3 or 4 weeks ago, the way things were going. But pretty exciting, and I think we've seen some pretty good football, guys.
Ricky, they are playing confident, and look, Texas Tech was coming in on a high. They'd been on a winning streak. Oklahoma State on a losing streak. They've managed to do both things, as end a winning streak and extend a losing streak in back-to-back weeks. Now they get to do a thing which is slay the big bad wolf that has been TCU for them. How much is not even game plan going into this, just confidence to keep the ghosts of Horned Frog losses past out of their mind?
Oh, gosh. You know what? I don't even know if that's a factor for these guys right now because of what they've done the last couple of weeks and the way they've played. The way things have turned around for them. They've done two things, and Paul, you mentioned it. They go to Lubbock and win on the road in a very, very tough place to play, and not only win, they really blow Tech out. In fact, that the most disappointing thing about it, if you listen to Aranda, was the fact that they let them score the last 2 touchdowns. Not a factor in the game at all. It's a blowout. They're trash time scores, and they're upset they gave them up. So, I mean, I love it. Then you come in against Oklahoma State. I know the record, but we also know Oklahoma State has players. Ollie Gordon is as good as they come, and they've got an offensive line that was back in its entirety. They've got talent. They're struggling. But that was a game that comes back to a 31-28 game late. And what's happened the last couple of years when that's happened? Well, figured out a way to lose. This time they drive down, punch it in the end zone, go up 38-28, and win the ball game. So we've seen things that have changed their confidence level, changed the way they play, and they'll go into Saturday confident. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win or that TCU is going to just lay down, because they're not, and that's been really a tough out for the Bears, and probably more so in Waco than Fort Worth. So this is a huge game for them, but it wouldn't have been if they haven't won the last 2 and go to 4-4. This goes to a lot of things. I don't think there's any question, both offensively and defensively. But guys, go back to one major change, and that's the QB change and the confidence Sawyer has given that offense, and probably even affected the defense some. Without him back there, I don't think they're where they are right now.
No, they're not, Ricky. He's played really, really well, and it's been cool to see him just continuously blossoming each week. And I mean, you can already tell he's got that leadership role, huh?
Yeah, Craig, and these players like him. They play for him, and it's just things like you have Dawson Pendergrass that has a 35-yard touchdown run. It gets called back. You're 2nd and 17. And Sawyer goes 41 on a quarterback, really not even a quarterback draw, just a scramble. That does two things. Your offensive team says, "Man, this guy's got us. He's got what it takes." The other thing that it does, think about a defensive football team that has somebody push back 2nd and 17, just had a score against them call back, and then you've got a QB go 41 yards on the next play. Talking about backbreaker, that is one that we've seen come at us in the past. So just big plays that he's made throwing the ball. Really one bad throw, I thought, Saturday in particular on the interception. But all in all, the kid has really played good football.
Yeah, then the complimentary football, he throws that pick, and then, Matt Jones forces the fumble, and Linton, so they even are covering up for each other's mistakes in some cases, which is also a great sign. Now, as far as that offense, and it all sort of starts with Sawyer, this run game, the last couple of weeks in particular, has gone crazy and been really, really good. How much of that is Sawyer? How much of that is the O-line? How much of that is the running backs? And is it all sustainable in your opinion, knowing also that they're playing some teams who haven't been great against the run, but kind of where do you take all of that momentum and where do you sort of categorize it, so to speak?
Well, I think you take all of it. You have averaging 300. You've rushed for 600 yards the last two games, 255 and 345, whatever it was. That's phenomenal. I think absolutely some of that goes forward. I think TCU will be better against the run than the last two teams that the Bears have played. But I'm just telling you, it's like anything else in the offense, even the passing game, defensively stopping the run. Once they've had that experience of running the football the way they have, I think they'll continue to do it pretty well. Now, I'm not saying they're going to go out for 300 yards every game. They're not going to. But, in most games, you rush 150, 180, you're in awfully good shape if you can throw the ball some too. So I think it's due to all of it. And I go back again to Sawyer and his ability to move with the football, even against the rush, against the blitz, and to handle that and to take off, even on a 11-yard first down run. Something like that adds so much to the running game, and it opens up your backs. You're at the 1-yard line last week, and I'm thinking, man, this may not be good. And first play, Pendergrass goes, 40 yards, 45. I just think it's a confidence with all these guys right now. There's been a couple of changes on the offensive line. I know Fugar went out to tackle. I think that made a difference. So I think the running game's here to stay, and that's not saying it's going to be 300 a game going forward, because it's not. But Craig, I think they've improved dramatically in the running game.
Why is it with Fugar out to left tackle? What has made the difference? Does that mean they have more leverage because he's a big dude? Why did that work, Well,
I don't know particularly. I just know that inside and the offensive line, guard, center is so much different than outside at tackle. You've got a different rush look, particularly in the passing game when the guy's coming from the outside corner. How many times have you seen a left tackle take the wrong guy, right tackle take the wrong guy? You step down, take the inside rush, and the guy comes free outside. You take a step back, take the end guy that's coming out, get a hand on him, and then the inside, the guard doesn't take him and he comes inside. So I just think it's really finding where everybody's comfortable and where they're best and where they play their best. And I guess you got to give some credit to an offensive line coach to shuffle these guys around to the spots where they're at their best. Because, I can watch it, but I don't know. They see them every day and they see the film. And I think part of that's been just a matter of finally, after 8 games, getting these guys in the right spot.
I just sent a text. I have to. We don't get access to the assistants really much at all or ever once the season begins. I know that there's perhaps some of that, but I asked Mason Miller, would you tell me why? I'll get the answer. I'll let you know, Ricky, and I'll mention it on the show, why that move of Fugar to left tackle may have unlocked Pandora's box. Could you have made the same catch Ashton Hawkins or even the one that Presley made in the corner of the end zone when you were young and talented?
Well, if you're talking about back then and now, that's two different things. In my mind, I could still do it. But the problem is, once I tried to leave the ground, there would be nothing there to leave the ground. So those were great catches. Really, I thought Ashton Hawkins was maybe even better because he came from behind the defender. He's not a tall guy like Presley. Went up over the top of him, and the impressive thing to me was not only did he go up and get the ball, but he kept his footing. How many times do you see that catch made and the receiver go to the ground? I don't think really some understand how difficult it is to make that play and keep your feet. And I thought that was a fantastic play. And, in fact, if you notice, the DB started stumbling, and Ashton just went around him and walked into the end zone. So, of the two catches, that was the most impressive. If you're throwing it into the end zone like that, though, I pick Howell because of his height, the way he can go to the ball, the way he can really use his body to shield the defender. that's another thing. We've got guys outside making plays now too that I think in the past, and particularly early in the year, maybe QBs didn't have the confidence to lay it out there.
Ricky, do you think that they are trying to preserve a red shirt on Daquan Finn? Because he, when Story Robertson got dinged, he didn't run out there?
Good question. I have no idea about that one. I would be a little surprised since he's a fifth-year guy, sixth-year guy, whichever. I know he's senior by trade. I would be a little surprised at that if that was the case. But why should I be surprised at anything anymore when you get involved in this NIL stuff? I just don't know. I don't have a good answer. Was a little surprising. You hate to put Nate Bennett out there for one play. The kid hadn't been in more than 4 games this year, obviously, but you could somewhere down the road get an injury where you've got to put the number 2 guy in for a couple of games, and that would take a year out of Bennett's career. So, interesting question. I don't have a good answer.
Ricky, TCU has not run the ball particularly well, and they've actually generated a lot of their run here recently with Savion Williams, their star wide receiver, running the Wildcat. So that is certainly something that Baylor will see on Saturday. But their bread and butter is the passing game, and Josh Hoover's very good at throwing the ball around, although it's a matter of if he's turning the ball over or not. That's kind of been how their season's gone. What do you think about Baylor's pass defense at this stage? How much of a concern do you have going into a game against a high-powered attack with some talented receivers like TCU?
Well, I have some concern. I think we saw a guy last week with, 15 catches for 183 yards?
Yeah.
And I don't think he's as good as these guys TCU have. I think Kendall Briles is doing a good job. They've thrown for over 400 several times. They are going to sling the ball. And unusual, Williams, I was just looking at some of that today. This dude's 6'5", 225. And they're putting him back there in a Wildcat, and he's run for 72 yards. They had, an 84-yard pass last week that was the winning touchdown. Williams had a 75-yard catch or run out of the backfield. They have had huge plays. So, I'm concerned with the passing game. I thought that we struggled even with Oklahoma State last week with some guys just running wide open. I saw a couple of blown coverages. So I'm very concerned about it. I think that's going to be in past weeks, we've said you got to stop the run. I think in this case this week that maybe you may have to try to stop the passing game first because they are going to throw it. That's where they get their big plays. So that's a concern, and I'm sure Coach Aranda has that same concern, and they'll be working on that quite extensively this week, I'm sure.
Ricky, there was a time, and it's been really for a couple of years, the disappointment was so heavy that we started to wonder about what would happen if they had another 3-9 or 4-8 or whatever it might be. Do you feel comfortable now where the program is moving forward, knowing they still have 4 games to play, but where they are?
Yeah, I think I do. I mean, things can change. You can lose 4 in a row and end up 4-8 too, and then we may be telling a different story. But I'm going to be surprised if that happens to this team. I'm not saying they're going to go 4-0 from here on out. There's some tough games in there, including this Saturday. But I think our perspective has changed, and I think it changed with what happened in Lubbock. And then to follow it up with the win against Oklahoma State. And I think more so even it's the way they're doing it. It's the way they're playing. It's the confidence you see out of them. It's the attitude of these kids. They haven't gotten down, and I think just watching them have fun is a big difference. So I'm going to be surprised if this isn't a bowl football team. That's 6, of course, with 4 to go. We could be surprised, but I think everybody's outlook has changed. But doesn't it change week to week in college football anyway?
Absolutely.
So, who knows?
Ricky, I'll offer this up. If they can't find 2 wins or more with the walk through the mediocre that they're about to take schedule-wise, then they have bigger problems than we realize.
Possibly. I don't know that I've got the specific answer to that, but Yeah, this is, you got UH on the road. They're struggling. Kansas coming home. They don't have a really good record, but they look pretty good against K-State. In fact, they should have won that game. TCU, we know, is a pretty good football team. They're at 5-3, and at West Virginia, we're 0 for however many times we played up there. So while it's not a particularly tough schedule, you're still going to have to play good football to win too. But if you don't, yeah, I know as fans, everybody's going to be disappointed and looking for something better. But a lot of factors into that, and I'm glad it's not my job.
Thank you, Ricky. Appreciate your time. As always, every other week we have JJ Joe on a Monday night or Monday evening, and then Ricky on Wednesday or Tuesday afternoon to discuss what's going on.